everybody, and
Hi,
welcome to Dice Jailers. I'm Jordan,
I'm Bjorn.
and this week we are going to be talking all about your big, beefy, but still magic and all the good things Paladin boys.
Oh, holy night, the paladin is smiting. They
Oh,
are
God.
knights, they have fiends to fight.
Oh, my God. I,
Yeah,
I
I've
wish
been
I knew
saying
that you had that locked away. I could have just had that on a loop for the pre show.
I know, right? You heard it here
But
first.
before we get into all of this paladin talk, it's been a week. Bjorn, what you been up to, man?
It's been good. Been a good week. Last night I did my last recording for Eastside Actors Rep for Skeleton Bay, so
Nice.
that's fun. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing the final project on that, and then we're talking about what scripts we're gonna do next because it's all public domain stuff
Right.
right now, but it's trying to avoid just doing like Shakespeare or the Greeks for public domain because you can find a lot of people doing that, especially
Yep.
right now.
It's
And
it,
so
it's the most known public domain stuff, so it makes sense.
exactly. And so the next thing we're looking at is some sci-fi stuff that's been around long enough to be public domain. And apparently there is some old like Flash Gordon radio stuff that
Yo,
the scripts would probably be, they might be considered public domain. And if they are, we're going to do some Flash Gordon.
that'd be dope.
Yeah, I was really excited about it because as cheesy as it is, I love old sci-fi. I particularly love Flash Gordon. It's it's just nostalgically fun.
There's nothing wrong with some cheese.
No, no. Although if you really want to enjoy Flash Gordon, you got to go with the '80s movie, this with the soundtrack by Queen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's just perfect cheesy sci-fi. Queen for the soundtrack, can't lose.
A good time.
Yeah. What about you, man? What's going on?
Things are great.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
You actually
uh
have news.
yeah. But like also like the show the show Vampires in the Neverwood that I'm doing
Yeah.
with Annex. We debuted the pessimism storyline. We debuted that on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Cool.
We've got another set of shows tomorrow and Saturday where the audience will truly get to choose if we go for realism or for pessimism at the top of the show, which is exciting because it's the first time that we are letting the audience have that big of the choice.
Oh, very
So
cool.
we legit don't know which ending we're gonna get for this weekend, which is
That's
exciting.
fun though.
Yeah.
I'm
And
excited
so
to
if you
hear how
want
that
to
goes.
say what?
I'm excited to hear how that goes.
Yeah. If anybody that wants to watch, it's online. The tickets are all donation. Just hit up Annex Theater at on Facebook or Vampires of the Neverwood on Facebook. There's a big event. All the links are on that. If you want to see it tomorrow, 7, I think. I always get confused when the show is going to start because of when I have to be there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm the same way. Any show I've ever been in, someone's like, "When does it start?" I'm going, "Okay, my call time's 5:30.
Hmm.
Doors open at." I'm like, "Oh, just be there by 6:30."
Just
Yeah, just like
yeah.
what are you asking me for? But
And
yeah,
also,
and
yeah.
y'all, if you are buying tickets to virtual things like this, you should definitely see this one, and you should see other ones too. Um, be good and honest people, and you should make a donation for a ticket price for every person who's viewing. If you can't afford it and like money's super tight and that's totally understandable and you can only afford just the one ticket and everyone watches, I mean that's cool too. It's the
Yeah.
most important that the arts are being supported.
Just
But
do what
if
you
if you
can.
could afford it, like
Yeah.
yeah, just do what you can. Do
But
what you
do
can.
please jump in and watch different of these shows that are happening virtually because they're tough to do, and actors around the world are just clamoring for something to do, and having an audience to watch it makes it all the better.
I mean, yeah, art and performance, it's kind of being redefined a bit right
Yeah,
now. Like,
like
you know,
mostly out of necessity, and
yeah.
it's weird and it's cool, and I'm scared, which is exciting.
And honestly, I think I've seen some really positive things come out of it. I think some aspects of this style of performance will be here to stay.
I think
Um,
so too.
you're seeing a lot of technical stuff that people are gonna do in their own homes. I mean, like I even have my own green screen now, so I can hang out on the cover of the player's handbook whenever I want. And it's this little thing that I'm able to use it for performances, for auditions. I mean, shit, just for D&D games, it's going to add another
Yeah,
level
like
of
it's just
ambiance.
it's but yeah, that's that. I mean, Rush Limbaugh fucking died, which I'm
Yeah, he
happy about.
did.
I don't give a damn what you think about speaking ill of the dead. He's fucking dead, and it's great.
I think
Uh,
it's awesome. Now, here's
also,
my attitude. Here's my attitude on that. Anybody like him who's going to talk that much shit about dead people goes around, comes around, baby.
yeah. Uh, and
I
also
don't
like
miss you.
I in in a couple of these episodes, what's behind me will be very, very different because I'm
Yes, it
moving
will.
finally, which is something I've been trying to do for quite some time, and it's going to be very nice, and I'm really, really excited about it because I'm also going to be moving a block and a half away from a couple of my best friends,
Oh, cool.
so it'll be nice. Because that's my players for the Icewind Dale campaign I'm running. I will be right around the corner from them.
Oh, nice. You know, all these good things. It's almost like some sort of divine intervention.
Yeah, and it's always great when divine intervention comes through because usually it's from the help of a good pal.
It is. That's the segue. Um, yeah,
I've had that one loaded up for like 2 days.
I love it. I love it. Paladins. What a great class. I'm going to get the one speed bump about them out of the way right now,
Okay.
and that they're one of the few classes where I really think you have to look at 3 stats instead of just 2 or
Mm-hmm.
1. You're going to have to beef either your strength or your dex. If you're me, it's going to be strength because I'm a paladin. I'm wearing plate armor. This is going to
Right.
happen. If I get proficiency in heavy armor, I'm going to use it because not everyone gets it, and you just feel cool when you purchase that plate mail
Yeah.
because it's so expensive. Um, so for me, I'm gonna have a high strength, and then because your spells run off of charisma, you want to have a high charisma, and also your auras when you get them,
Mm-hmm.
you're adding your charisma modifier on top of other saving throws. So it really behooves you to have as high of a charisma as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're a paladin, you're probably the tank of your party, which
Most
means you
likely.
have to think about your constitution as well. So that's because con's not a dump stat. And I'm gonna
Okay,
say
for paladins, it's not.
it's that
Um,
yeah, like you have a D10 hit die, but that's not gonna take you far enough when you're tanking.
I'll
You
say
have to have that
for
con.
paladins, con is not a dump stat, but it doesn't need to be a primary stat. Uh,
No, I would say for level 1, having anything less than a 12 Constitution, I think you might be in murky water. If it's me,
mhm.
I like to start with about a 14
Yeah.
because then I'm getting an extra 2 hit points per level.
I mean,
But
unless the only reason I would circumvent that is if like you're playing a variant human and that free feat is tough,
sure, and which
then
I think is it's a
yeah.
great use for any tank to take tough.
Oh yeah.
So that's the one sticky wicket with paladins that I would say if you're a new player and you want to play a paladin, that's great. I think you'll have a lot of fun, but you may find yourself getting a little frustrated with what to do with some of those stats.
Yeah.
Um,
You might get spread a little thin.
yeah, you're if you go strength like I do, you're gonna dump dex because forget it. Have an 8, take your -1 to initiative. You don't need it. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. And then honestly, decide whether you come by your teachings through book learning or naturally, and then either dump intelligence or wisdom. You
Yeah.
don't need both. If it's me, honestly, I'm likely to have the lower intelligence. Just I like wisdom saves. I think some of the spell effects that come from wisdoms are more detrimental.
See, I actually prefer to have the higher intelligence to the higher wisdom, just because uh so also a thing with paladins for 5th edition is that I did not realize how different they are from past
Yeah.
editions. And so in my brain goes to older paladins, which unlike these new paladins that are bound to oaths rather than gods,
Yes.
the older paladins were tied to gods. And so for the deities, religion is an intelligence skill, And so that's why I'm like, but maybe intelligence though.
And that's the one place I get kind of caught up. I like to have good insight for a paladin, so
Yeah.
I'm more likely to go wisdom, but I get torn between insight and religion. But that's like the end of my negative for it. As
Mm-hmm.
far as like the positives, like when I think of a paladin, you know, certain characters come to mind. Like if you want to go just the true knight in shining armor, noble, swore an oath, you think of like Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Like perfect comparison for a paladin. Superman,
Yep.
great example of a paladin. Always does the right thing. I would say Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Yep.
I would look at that as another example of a paladin. But I also, and this is something I like, that your paladin doesn't have to be lawful good
Mm-hmm.
anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, I will play a lawful good paladin and I will have a lot of fun doing it. But if you want to go on the idea of like this evil cult leader who's like super charismatic and has their own tenets and their own oath, I
Mm-hmm.
think of like Negan from The Walking Dead
Yeah.
as the idea of a lawful evil paladin. This whole we kill one of you so you know we're serious, and you lead this group that's, hey, they're called the Saviors. What do you know?
Right.
But yeah, I would 100% say that Negan is a paladin because he's very charismatic, has his core beliefs that he's unwavering from,
Mm-hmm.
and evil paladins can be fun.
Yes. Yes, they can. And that's the thing that I noticed with fifth edition paladins when I was looking stuff up for this episode, was that like with paladins being sworn to oaths rather
Yeah,
than particular gods, now you get all of these roleplay options that are open to you, that don't have to rely on your character, screaming to daddy in the sky. Because
which you can
I
still do.
which you can still do. I dislike it because of my past. Um, it's not evangelical Christian schools are garbage. Um,
True.
they give lasting trauma, so I don't like playing characters that pray to Sky Daddy. But and
Yeah,
so like paladins, you don't have to in fifth edition, which is so nice. Uh,
yeah, and looking at all the different types of paladins, like what I think is cool is like honestly the best features of paladins you get no matter which one you take.
yeah,
You get
I, I
you get
was
a
I was
fighting
gonna I
style.
was gonna try to segue us into talking about some of the main like paladin things.
Yeah, like you get a fighting style, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's fantastic. You get lay on hands, which is
Yep.
arguably the best method of healing in the game. You
Absolutely.
can give somebody just one hit point if they're unconscious, pop them back up. Or because it's 5 points per level, if you're a 10th level paladin, that's 50 points of healing you can
Yep.
bestow in an action, turn the entire tide of a battle.
And it's so good because you can, rather than it being a dice roll and some kind of variable amount, your lay
Yes,
on hands, you get to choose
you choose the
how
exact
much
amount every time.
from
It's
your
it's
from
great.
your pool you have. It's
Yeah,
just it's wild. It's so cool because then you never have that thing that sometimes happens as a healer where you're like, all right, this heal needs to go well so we can turn the tide of this battle, and then you roll minimum, and you're
yeah,
just
and you're
like,
just going,
well,
sorry guys.
fuck my drag. That's just
Yeah,
all
you're like,
right. Fifth level spell slot down for nothing.
yep, yep. And we've all seen it happen. And I'm with you. That's why lay on hands is so great. And then of course, there's the whole reason you play a paladin, and that's divine smite.
Yep.
I mean,
Oh, magic smack. Mm.
divine smite. What I love about it, and this is where I'll say, if you're a paladin, don't waste your time with any ranged weapons because your divine smite has to be a melee weapon.
It does.
But the best part about it is when you read it, it is when you successfully land a melee attack, you then get to choose to use your divine smite,
Yep.
which means because you double the dice with crits, you can hold them back until you crit.
And
And
then
when you crit,
big smack.
I mean, as someone who's played a paladin, I can tell you that if you roll that natural 20 and you have a spell slot, you're going to use it for divine smite. You don't
Absolutely.
care what it is you're hitting. You're just like, you know what? I want to see how many dice I can roll today.
You could be hit. You could be level like 15 and hitting a kobold for some reason. You're
Bye.
still going to divine smite it just
Yep.
to see how big of a nuke you can drop.
And it's amazing. And then of course when you get your auras, the fact that all paladins get the aura of increasing saving throws.
Yes.
Different archetypes get some other different auras you can throw in there, but those base things make this class really powerful,
Yeah.
especially at low levels. There is kind of a little mid range there where you can get a little frustrated because I feel
Well,
like they all plateau,
it's
and I feel
it's
like
where most classes hit their level desert is
yeah,
it's around that like 12, 13. You
yeah,
know.
and it's not until you hit like level 17 again as a paladin that all of a sudden you feel like this mega badass. Because coming out of the gate, you're gonna leave your fighters and even barbarians in the
Mm-hmm.
dust with how much damage you can do with your divine smite. And then after about level 7, until you honestly get to around level 13, 14, you can kind of feel very, very middling. You'll still be good, but
You'll
you
be
just can't keep up
fine.
with them for damage.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to remember as a paladin, you are still partially a spellcaster.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to use most of those spell slots on your divine smite,
You will.
but you have other things that are great, like you got blessed, you got shield of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of quality spells you can get as
Which
a paladin.
bless, I gotta say, people overlook bless a lot,
First
and
level
they
spell,
should
add a
not.
d4 to your attack roll. It's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing spell.
It's because bless is attack rolls, I believe, saves and ability checks too.
Yep,
Yeah, it's that nice boost that not a whole lot of classes get access to,
exactly.
and so people overlook it. And that's one thing that the paladin is great for, is being able to be right in the middle of all the shit, drop bless, and be like, all right, we're a little extra dope now.
Exactly. And then by that point, when you have your aura and it's adding to all saving throws,
Mm-hmm.
you can think about how you're going to be the most useful in combat, because even if you're facing like say a flying enemy and you can't get up in its face, well, you can go stand near your spellcasters or near your ranged combatants. You can cast spells
Yeah,
to aid the combat, and you're now increasing their saving throws. So you can be a great utility piece even if you're not in there messing dudes up with your
yeah,
sword.
and it's nice because that it's one of the things that I have a love hate relationship with classes like the paladin,
Mhm.
is where you will always be consistently helpful,
Right.
but unless you're critting on a divine smite, you're probably not gonna have that huge big hero moment,
Yeah.
which is my big love hate, because I really believe that every class should have a solid proper way to have those big hero moments. And for the paladin, it's really just landing that big divine smite. Otherwise, you're just there as a consistent help.
And it's funny you phrase it that way. That actually segues me into the archetypes.
Great, because
Um,
that's what I wanted to do next.
as far as um, now, there are a lot of paladin archetypes that
Mm-hmm.
I like from a mechanics standpoint, and there's one in particular that I'll kind of mention it as one of my honorable mentions that
Mm-hmm.
I think mechanics wise is one of the best archetypes in the entire game.
Okay.
But as far as my personal favorite, the one that speaks to me the most in terms of a character I would run, I actually go to one of the new ones from Tasha's. I know I'm not holding up the player's handbook today.
Wow. I mean, you're still in front of it.
I know I am. It's with me always. It's the Oath of Glory. I love this one. The idea that you're destined for heroic feats, or you're just trying
Yep.
to build your renown for yourself. Um, from a mechanic standpoint, this is not one of the best ones in terms of what you get for your channel divinity.
No.
But I'm okay with that, considering at level 3, when you choose this oath, one of the spells you get is Guiding Bolt.
God, I love guiding bolt.
Having a reliable ranged attack as a paladin changes everything, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Also, you get the heroism, which is a decent spell.
Hmm.
It's not
It
great, but
yeah,
you can
it
make people immune to fear, which can really actually help late game.
yep, especially when your party starts dealing with dragons.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can be like, oh hey, look, you're not afraid now. There you go. For fifth
Hmm.
level spells, I don't think magic weapon is that great or that big of a deal. I mean,
You're
maybe if
better
you're
off
playing in a
divine smiting.
yeah, I mean, if you're playing in a super low level, so super low magic campaign, excuse me, um,
Hmm.
it can be really worthwhile then to be like, okay, hey, my sword's magic now.
Right.
Enhance ability is super situational, but if it's a situation where you need an ability enhanced, it's great. But when you hit level 9, you get haste.
Yeah.
And a hasted paladin is terrifying,
Oh yeah.
absolutely terrifying. Um, but going back to level 3 for your channel divinities, peerless athlete, not great, but it's kind of fun.
I,
For 10 minutes, advantage on athletics or acrobatics
I
checks.
mean, and that could be good if your DM is like me and loves to throw in chase sequences, which I
Yeah,
think a lot of DMs are going to start doing more often because they did just do one of those video articles on D&D Beyond about how to make good chase scenes. And if you're a newer DM, I highly highly recommend watching it. I watched it this afternoon.
oh
It's
yeah,
good.
chase scenes are great, and this would be a great thing for like that paladin, especially because peerless athlete is a bonus action. So then for your action, you can be doing cool athletics or acrobatics stuff
Yeah.
during the chase. I also think the other ability you get, inspiring smite, even though it's a channel divinity, so you can only do it once per rest.
Yeah.
The fact that once you've used your divine smite, you can then use your bonus action to give out some temporary hit points, 2d8 plus your paladin level, and you can choose yourself, which
Mhm.
can be really useful because, again, if you're that tank, you're taking hits. The idea that you just hit something and can heal yourself a bit, that's pretty
It's
useful.
and
Um,
it's pretty solid timing wise.
yeah,
Cuz sometimes it's hard to it's hard in combat to get that healing out to people that need it when they actually need it.
right. And the hard thing about using lay on hands in combat is it is your action.
And you got to
And
touch
as a
them.
paladin, you probably want to be attacking, so it's hard to sacrifice that attack for healing.
Well, and
Um,
also like if there's, ranged enemies and they're picking at your spellcaster or your ranger,
yeah,
uh lay on hands. It's in the name. You have to touch them.
exactly. The upside, though, you're talking about ranged foes. The aura of alacrity, I think it's one of the worst auras as far as a team is concerned because
Mhm.
the radius is so small.
It's so tiny.
Yeah, and you all have to just move as a group. However, the fact that it works on yourself and it increases your movement by 10 feet,
Yeah.
I can tell you an additional 10 feet of movement can be a lot.
Yes.
And having your paladin able to move that much more, uh, super useful.
Well, and also
Go
that extra 10 feet is good for offsetting that plate armor.
exactly. Because your stealth is going to suck. And again, you have no dex, so you're going last.
Yeah.
So it's great. You now have a 40 movement speed instead of a 30, or if you chose like a dwarf with a 25, so increase that to
Hmm.
35, which again, if you were looking at using a dwarf and maybe you were concerned, oh, I don't want the slower movement speed, level 7, you're going to get to add 10 feet to it. So that's
Absolutely.
nice. And then what's great for the Oath of Glory, Glorious Defense, if you're playing a campaign that gets up to level 15, being able to use your reaction to increase an ally's AC by your charisma mod, that's
Oh
that's
yeah.
pretty nice. I
And
you
also by level 15, you've probably got some magic armor in your party.
yeah,
So that can make your more dexy party member still have that huge AC like you do with your plate armor.
exactly. And honestly, I think as far as capstone abilities, I think Oath of Glory has one of the most fun ones with Living Legend. The
Yeah.
fact that you've got advantage on all charisma checks, which I mean, okay, you'd have to be in a social situation for that to work. You're probably not using that a whole
Yeah.
lot. Um, If you fail a saving throw, you can use your reaction to re-roll it. The fact that you can do that every round is pretty
That's
useful. And
pretty
again,
big.
you're gonna have your aura increasing all your saving throws, and paladins make most of their saves because of that.
Hmm.
But my favorite part of it, and granted, this only lasts for a minute, so you got to make big use of it. But on each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack, if you miss, you can choose that attack to hit instead. That's amazing.
Yep.
That means once on each of your turns, when you're making an attack, you can decide, oh, I missed. Okay, that actually hits. Hey, you know what? I'm going to Divine Smite now. That gives you a guaranteed smite every round. So if you're in that
Yeah.
big boss fight, you can now be that hero of legend. Granted, that's level
It's
20.
level 20, and you're probably fighting a god.
Yeah, most campaigns never see level 20, so you're
Yeah.
probably never going to use this ability. But if you know you're going to get there, that one is great. And I think it's a lot of fun. But I think
And it's
the
unfortunate that so many cool abilities are that capstone ability because
yeah,
you know it most people think it's cool, maybe choose the class because of it and then never get to it, as well as if you multi-class you're never going to have it, uh and that's unfortunate.
yeah. But I would say as far as a paladin where there's a lot of role play potential, I love the Oath of Glory. The fact that your oath is to be known by your deeds. The fact that like it forces you, which I don't think this is a bad thing, to play this heroic character who
Hmm.
will always, face any challenge with courage and try and bolster your allies to be courageous along with
Right.
you. It's great for playing a face in a party. It's a lot of fun. It's the kind of paladin I really lean into, where I like to be very vociferous and use that charisma mod. But when it's time to throw down, I'll throw down. The other one I want to throw in is an honorable mention for one that I
Hmm.
love, and it's cool because this kind of goes into being able to play like a more edgy paladin. I know edge lords, you risk that, but
Yeah.
it also has really cool abilities and is arguably one of the best in the game. Is honestly the Oath of Vengeance. Um,
Okay.
Oath of Vengeance is awesome. You get good spells, but let's face it, we're all talking about the Channel Divinity, where at level 3 you get to make yourself a ridiculous level combatant with Vow of
Yeah.
Enmity. Bonus action, you get advantage on all attack rolls for a minute against one
Yep.
creature until it drops or falls unconscious, or until
Which
a minute runs out.
that is huge.
It's such an incredible ability because again, if you're critting, you're using those smites. So
Yeah.
um,
And like that ability is really just the man, fuck that guy in particular.
exactly.
Like
I really like that one a lot. Um, and it gets some cool spells like getting Bane and Hunter's Mark, Misty Step,
Mhm.
Dimension Door. It also gets haste, much like the Oath of Glory.
Mhm.
Um, I'm I don't know that I would play a paladin that would be Oath of Vengeance unless I specifically ran them in the idea of they're super peaceful and they always want to talk a situation down until you make them draw their sword. But because their oath is vengeance, their whole tenet would be once their blade is drawn, they fight until their enemy is destroyed. There is
Yeah.
no calling them off. And so I think that could be a really interesting party dynamic to basically for the party to understand, hey, look, if I take my sword out, I'm killing this MFer. That's how
Yeah.
it's going to go. So you could have these great, almost like gunslinger moments where you just tell the DM, okay, I grab the handle of my sword. I ask my opponent, are you sure you want to do this? And there's a lot of fun there. But
Yeah.
that's a secondary. But man, Oath of Glory, I know that mechanics wise, it is not the quote best. Man, is it fun. Man, is it a lot of fun.
It's cool. Uh I'd say for oaths for me for the
Yep.
paladin, I mean I really want to gravitate more toward like pushing forward the Oath of Conquest,
Mhm.
or the Critical Role made Oath of the Open Sea,
Right.
because they're thematically cool. Uh, and just because I like paladins that I always like classes that don't exactly play, like they don't play to type, if that makes sense.
And Oath of Conquest is great. I looked at
Yeah.
that one a lot today, and I almost chose that for my honorable mention.
But the oath that I really really like for paladins is the Oath of the Ancients,
Yes.
because you have that cool thing of Oath of the Ancients where your oath is to your oath is basically to just be good and make life wonderful, which is awesome for a charisma character, because
Yep.
you can because that leads you to so many role-playing things of having fun alongside your bard, which is a thing that past paladins never did,
Yeah, they
because
never had fun.
usually past paladins were, all right, bard, don't do anything dumb, and then
Yeah.
the bard does something dumb. And with the Oath of the Ancients, because your oath is to uphold like joy and mirth, now it's not don't do something dumb, it's we're gonna do something dumb, which I always support. Uh, Also, just with some of the abilities, and also I like, because again, with my dislike of characters that are reliant on deities, uh, the fact that it's nature based
Yeah,
is really really cool to me.
it's like the druid of the paladins.
Yeah, which I really like, because you still have all that paladinness of I am protecting, I am protecting this thing that I hold dear. But that thing that you hold dear is everything that's beautiful and good in nature and life, which is just such an interesting but still core paladin thing
Well,
that
and sure,
I love it.
there's a great example in some semi well known D&D pop culture of Anna Prosser's character, formerly of Dice Camera
Mhm.
Action. Evelyn Marthane was an Oath of the Ancients, but not was is. I know she still plays the character. She's done it
Yeah.
some with Acquisitions Incorporated. But I mean, Evelyn, what a great character that
Yeah.
was. She had this, she was slightly southern and ditzy, but was always just so nice. But it was also about upholding nature. Now, granted, she was specifically, beholden to Lathander, but like you
Yes.
said, you don't have to be beholden to a god. You
You
could just
don't.
be, well, what do you swear yourself to? You're like, I swear myself to nature. I
Yeah.
protect nature. It doesn't have to be Melora.
Yeah.
I mean,
And there's a lot of nice things mechanically also with
oh
this
yeah.
with this oath. Like, one, Undying Sentinel, you get the orc resistance, or whatever it is, or orc
Yep, yep,
ferocity, whatever it's called. You get that, as well as you don't age like a monk,
yep.
which I always find to just be a fun thing, especially
Yeah.
as a DM, because you can grab one of these paladins and have them be like a human, but have been living as long as an elf. You know,
Which is so cool.
it's just a cool thematic thing. I mean, the Elder Champion is ridiculous.
Yes, it
Like,
is.
you're probably, I mean, again, it's a level 20 ability. You're probably never gonna get to use it, but if you do, you heal 10 hit points around.
Yeah, and unlike some other abilities, it is not based on how many hit points you currently have.
Nope.
You regain 10.
You
The only
just
way you don't get hit points is if your hit points are full.
Yeah, and just like yes, the spell casting turning to a bonus action is cool.
Yeah,
The enemies having disadvantage near you is cool, but you heal 10 hit points around.
which again, you are a tank.
Like, even if you're
Healing
not
now.
even if you don't build your character to really be a tank, you're a tank now.
Now you are.
It's like, if you take this oath, you're a tank for this minute.
And I have to say, for the ancients, I really like some of the spells that you get, like getting Misty Step, getting
Mhm.
Moonbeam. Um, it's it's a
Yeah.
very fun build.
And we love Ice Storm.
It's a good spell.
It just Ice Storm is the one spell in that list that is weird to me
Sure.
because like
Well, I mean,
all the rest of them really make sense, and then fucking Ice Storm.
why not?
Just
Honestly, of all of them, granted, you have to hit level 17 till you get here. I like that it's got tree stride.
yeah, I think that's it's a great nod to the fact that it is about protecting nature.
Yeah.
It's
Like
just like you protect nature, so now you can jump through it because it lets you.
yeah. And you can just like bamf around a forest like Nightcrawler.
Yeah,
It's great. Yeah, no, Oath of the Ancients is just friggin' awesome.
it's
And
it's just a cool it's a cool subclass. It just
and it has one of the best auras too. The aura of
mm,
warding.
mm-hmm,
The fact that
mm-hmm.
you and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you increases to 30 at 18th level, but again, you're probably not getting there. You have resistance to damage from spells.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That means even if you're failing your saving throws on these spells, half damage. Oh, you made your saving throw? Quarter
Quarter
damage.
damage.
That's that's big. And the fact that you get that at 7th level makes you not afraid of magic damage so much,
Yeah. You
which
can
is
really use this subclass as like a lot of there's a lot of different like not so much pop culture but like tabletop culture of the Mage Slayer,
yep.
and you can really take this oath and make your character that Mage Slayer.
Yeah,
Like
which is
you
just cool.
are yeah, you are devoted to nature and protecting nature, so you can have that idea of like your paladin is protecting nature by slaying mages that hurt nature with their untamed magic.
Yeah. Um oh, it's great and it's one of my favorites and oh, it's yeah, I think the hardest part about playing a paladin is when you get to level 3 and you choose your oath. It's like which one to take, because a lot
Yeah,
of them are so good, either from a mechanic standpoint or a role play potential
yeah,
standpoint.
I think that
They're
the toughest part is really the role play with the
yeah,
different oaths, because they're like let's just let's just talk about Oath of the Watchers for a moment.
do we
It
have
is
to?
not my least favorite, but it
It's not
has
my
my
least favorite, but it's close.
least favorite like tenets of the different oaths.
Yeah,
Like,
they're kind of boring.
yeah, it's just like, all right, be ready for evil to maybe happen.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, don't accept favors from fiends or those who roll with fiends. I'm going, and this kind of obvious if you're a paladin.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm like, if you're any kind of good aligned, you're already doing that. And
yeah,
then the third tenet of discipline is the same basically as the first tenet of vigilance.
yeah,
Like,
it's
what do you even do with that? You're just like, well, I'm a paladin and I'm ready for something to happen.
yeah. I feel like it's sort of one of those things that it wasn't fully fleshed out. It feels a
Yeah.
little too niche for me. If you're playing in certain campaigns where you know you're going to be fighting a bunch of interplanar stuff, this is great.
Maybe.
However, if you're playing something like say Curse of Strahd, you're not even going to get to use most of your abilities that much because you're not fighting really a whole lot of, if any, interplanar stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would even say like this would be largely wasted on Descent into Avernus because half the stuff you run into is already on its native plane.
Yeah. And so like, eh. Also, if you're playing Descent, if you're playing Descent, like the tenants aren't fun for you
No.
because it's
And
just like, well, we're in the hells, so everything is awful.
although I
Which
would say if you're playing
that's
Descent into Avernus, that's a great time to think about choosing a paladin.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Just
much fun that can be had.
you really do get to be the hero big time if you play a paladin in that campaign.
Oh yeah.
Uh, that one's made for paladins and clerics to look good.
Exactly. And if you're looking at an oath, two more I would throw out as far as, hey, these can be great because they're simple. Is the oath of devotion, which is the most vanilla. But if
Yeah.
people use vanilla like it's bad, hey, vanilla is delicious and vanilla beans are expensive. So let's not be so judgy about vanilla. But
I mean, chocolate's better, but whatever.
that one's basically just you're a paladin, but your abilities are cool. And then
Yeah.
also Oath of the Crown, because Oath of the Crown gets some really interesting abilities and can
See,
be a lot of fun.
it's funny that you mentioned Oath of the Crown,
Oh yeah,
because that is my least favorite of the oaths.
really?
Hands down, my least favorite of the oaths.
I
And
would love to hear
part of
why,
it,
because you get some great stuff with that.
part of it stems from my dislike of, like most of it stems from my personal experiences.
Sure.
But like just playing a character that is that devoted to law and just pure law,
Mhm.
no thank you.
No,
No
that's
thank
fair.
you. And
Um,
so and also like the abilities in my opinion aren't that cool compared to the other ones.
okay.
Compared to the other oaths, because you have like you have the challenge, the champion challenge, which really play a fighter. Um like play a fighter. And with channel divinity with your turn the tide. Um yeah, it's healing. Okay, you can get that from other oaths.
I,
Uh
the one counterpoint I will give on Champion Challenge is the fact that you can use that on everything within 30 feet of you. You can control a crowd. I will say it can be sort of a niche thing, and I only mentioned that one when I played a paladin. I did play Oath of the Crown, and I used Champion Challenge a lot.
yeah, I mean,
But it was my
and
one ability that I used a lot. So
yeah,
I'm just really big on that one.
I see it getting a lot of use. I just also don't see it being all that great, because if your DM is running things realistically, you're the paladin in the big shiny armor anyway.
So they're already
You
going after you.
you should be the target already.
I was the target a lot. I won't lie. I won't lie.
Like you should already be the target for just being the guy in the big shiny armor.
Sure.
Eh. It doesn't seem like it would be that useful if you're playing with a DM that tries to play the enemies as realistic as possible.
Sure.
There
Sure.
are some DMs that like straight up they'll just go like, well, you're there and these enemies, let's see, who's it attacking, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and then just rolls. By the way, I dislike that. I think it's lazy. Give your monsters some brains.
Also, if you're
Hmm.
going to do that, just don't tell your players you did that.
Also, yes.
Yeah, just don't tell them. You can get away with doing that until you say, "Here's what I'm doing."
Mm-hmm. But like, and that's really why I don't like the Oath of the Crown, is because like that ability feels redundant,
Mhm.
as well as being someone that just, yep, only the law. The law is the law, and it's the law, and get the fuck out of my face.
I would be thrilled as a DM, however, to have that player at my table. Only if they played Oath of the Crown, I wouldn't do something to them like ha ha ha. This sovereign that you've sworn yourself to has actually been super evil the whole time. Because I kind of think that's effing with your players in a way
That
that can be
is.
going, like that can totally cut them off at the knees, make them feel like they've lost agency in a game. But I would definitely have those under their sovereign's leadership or organization, or make sure that they had to ask questions of themselves along the
Mm-hmm.
way to give them that internal struggle. Uh,
Yeah.
I think if you do that, you can give a player a lot of potential with that archetype,
Yeah.
but it's one that I think it does require a DM's help with.
Yes. So which of the archetypes, which of the oaths are you not so keen on?
Um, yeah. So there's a monk hiding in our paladins.
Ah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Oath of Redemption.
Yup.
Now, I I understand that from a mechanic standpoint, the Oath of Redemption frigging rocks.
Yup.
Violence is a last resort. It's about diplomacy and understanding and peace. And you have to be patient because change takes time. And you need to be wise because your heart and mind must be clear. And it's like, oh, but everyone begins life in an innocent state. And it's actually dark influences that get in on them, all that. And I'm going, give me a break.
Right.
Like, you get sanctuary and sleep and calm emotions and hold pattern and hypnotic pattern and hold monster and wall of force. You get counterspell, which is great.
Counterspell is wonderful,
Yeah.
but
And you can give yourself, for your channel divinity, +5 to all persuasion checks for 10 minutes, or
yeah.
to rebuke those who use violence. If someone within 30 feet of you deals damage against someone other than you can use your reaction, make them take a wisdom saving throw, and they would take equal damage. You
Mhm.
get this aura where if someone else takes damage, you can make it that you take the damage instead,
Mhm.
and you get to heal yourself if you have less than half when your turn starts, much like a high level fighter.
Yeah.
But then you finally get your 20th level ability. Okay, cool. You have resistance to all damage. Wow, that's cool.
Okay.
And if anyone hits you with an attack, they take radiant damage equal to half the damage you took. Wow, that's great. Kind of, because you already half the damage when you took it.
Yeah,
Now
and
it's
so
half again.
they're taking like a quarter of the bounce back.
Yeah, but then if you attack a creature, cast a spell on a creature, or damage it by any means but that feature itself, neither benefit works again until you finish a long rest. So all
Yep.
you're doing is like walking around the battlefield, like grabbing and tripping your foes, and this overly peaceful emissary, like it feels more like a monk to me.
Yeah. There's
Like,
that was definitely my like my second least favorite oath for that reason.
yeah,
Cuz
I look at it and it just doesn't feel like a paladin. Like, sure, there are the
hmm,
oaths and all that and whatnot, but again, and maybe this is just where my mind is at. When I think of a paladin, I think of that knight in shining armor, bravely striding into the battlefield, engaging with the deadliest of foes, and I just picture someone wearing these flowing monk's robes, just very calm and serene, walking out there and just trying to incapacitate foes peacefully. And
yeah. It just doesn't match, you know?
yeah, I'm sure in the right player's
And
hands, it's an
like
incredibly interesting character. I just can't make it mesh with
yeah.
the paladin. And frankly, I think a monk archetype that has those tools could be super interesting.
It would be way more interesting than the
Yeah,
paladin having it.
this totally non-violent monk
Yeah.
where you give it ways to use their key points to restrain and
Mhm.
subdue and do all these other things as opposed to things like flurry of blows. And I just think it's wasted on a paladin. And
And
cool,
also
you got
with that,
counterspell.
as a player, like there can be times where it's fun and interesting for the story to have one of your players like, no, we shouldn't just kill them. We need to
Right.
incapacitate them. But if you have a character that is doing that every time,
Yeah.
fuck me sideways. No. That is
And
going to get so old so quick.
and the other thing to me, like it would feel so counterintuitive to me playing a paladin simply because the bread and butter of the paladin is the divine smite. Um,
Exactly.
I don't care who you are. It's the divine smite. You're adding at the lowest level. You get to add 2d8 to the
Mm-hmm.
successful hit of radiant damage. That's awesome. If you hit an undead or a fiend with this, add another d8.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're a friggin' paladin, and that's awesome. And it caps at 5d8, which is amazing because that means you don't have to play a paladin all the way up to the highest levels
To get the biggest
to
divine smite.
yeah.
Yeah.
Once you've got your um, shoot fourth level spells, you're capped out. You don't need those fifth level spells.
And
So
then, multi-class to the Pallock or the Bardadin.
yeah, I mean,
Maybe not the
paladin.
Bardadin, except for it is a fun name.
I
Um,
mean, no, I mean the padlock is a very popular build
it
for a
is.
reason. You're talking about a class that gets spell slots back on a short rest, and that's the thing I remember about paladin. You get your spell slots back on a long rest, so you got to be a little stingy with those divine smites at lower levels.
I mean, or don't, and then be caught without any, which is always funny.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it can get your party completely killed,
yep.
but it'll sometimes like sometimes TPKs can be funny. The one where, so can we kill this thing? Oh, I'm out of spells. You out of spells? I'm out of spells. You out of spells? I'm out of spells. Well, fuck.
Oh man, it's like old school wizards who just they blow through their spells like, well, I can't do anything today, guys. Sorry.
The wizard with a crossbow.
Yeah, thank goodness for arcane recovery.
Oh god. And just cantrips.
Yep, yep. But yeah, that's honestly the biggest reason I don't like the Oath of Redemption. I love the concept behind it,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like you could take those tenets of I'm non-violent until all other means are completely exhausted and apply it to literally any other oath.
Absolutely.
Like you could apply it to any other one and have that same character, with the exception of the um, Oath of Conquest.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't work with Oath of Conquest.
Like that one is the one that is like just outwardly violent.
Yeah.
My the Oath of Conquest is the one that I actually kind of also have a
A love
slight
hate.
yeah. I love how it works, but I think it's a hard time making it work in an adventuring party. Just
Yeah.
I look over it and I go, this works well for an antagonist, or I mean, heck, if you are playing an evil campaign, I have a hard time getting into those just
Oh man,
because
I love me some evil campaigns. They're just hard to DM.
I mean, I have a hard time playing in them because they just kind of always devolve into let's just murder everyone in sight, and that just gets boring to me.
See, and that's why evil campaigns are so tough to DM, is because you have to give them reasons to not murder everyone on site.
Yeah, I would say the Oath of Conquest, however, could be interesting. Like I mentioned before that I consider Negan from The Walking Dead an evil paladin.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one evil type of character that I could see myself playing and inserting with an adventuring group and having it not be a problem is a lawful evil paladin. They
Mm-hmm.
would have to have a certain amount of intelligence, and it would simply be okay, we'll try things your way. And the minute your way doesn't work,
Then
we're
we do
using
them my
my
way.
way. Yeah, we're gonna do it my way, and my way is violent. And
Yeah.
so I think you could do the Oath of Conquest there,
Yeah.
or you could even do and I mentioned this one as we get near the end, the Oathbreaker.
Mm-hmm.
The Oathbreaker is cool.
The Oathbreaker, a mention to the Oathbreaker is like the OG subclass.
Yeah,
Like before subclasses were really a thing, Oathbreaker Paladin was still there.
exactly. And
And it's cool. It's fine. I also think people have overplayed it, so I'm kind of over it.
yeah, I agree. I think an important thing to note with it is if someone's like, ha ha ha, I'm going to be an oath breaker with this adventuring party. Um, Aura of Hate is really important to look at because it says the paladin, as well as any fiends and undead within 10 feet of the paladin, gain a
Mm-hmm.
bonus to melee weapon damage rolls equal to the paladin's charisma modifier. Um, Here's why that's important. It
The
says,
word any.
yeah, that means if you are fighting against fiends or undead, they get that bonus. So I highly, highly, highly recommend as a player character to never deliberately choose an oath breaker.
Yeah.
The rules on Paladins are actually really cool, where you can break your oath and be redeemed once.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one where I would say talk to your DM. If you're not having fun with the oath, or you feel the story has reached a point where you feel like your oath should change, you can go through a period of being an oath breaker, and there's a lot to deal with
Yeah.
that, and like having to work back and redeem yourself, because oath breakers are also really flippin' powerful.
They are.
Like, you get this ability where all of a sudden you're adding your charisma mod on top of your damage. When you
Yeah.
see like the bonuses you're getting, it can eclipse a barbarian's rage damage.
Oh, absolutely.
And all of a sudden, you're just dealing out beastly amounts of damage with every hit. And you might have yourself go, oh man, maybe I want to be this powerful machine of death. So that is the one thing about the Oathbreaker I do really like. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate it if someone's saying they're going to roll a character, and when they hit level 3, they go, I'm taking Oathbreaker. And me as a DM, I would say, no, you're not.
Because what oath have you broken?
And that's exactly what I would ask them. What
Yep.
oath did you break? I'm like, nope, you have to take an oath, and then there's got to be a point where it's broken. Now, if the oath is broken and we go down that road, that's a really good opportunity for role play. But that's another thing for DMs. If you have that player that is playing a paladin, find out where they kind of want to go with it. Because if they want to be a just nasty, combative, I'm gonna kill your face paladin, show them Oath of Conquest or Vengeance. Because both of those are really, really good, especially Oath of Vengeance. I mean, Vow of Enmity is
Oh my
one
god,
of the
it's
best.
so good.
Hey, I have advantage on every attack against this dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you can be this true, just spirit or embodiment of violence and destruction and retribution, and still be a paladin. And I think that's where 5e really excelled with the paladin, is giving you all these options. But
rather than having you stuck to like a god or an alignment, you are stuck to your oath.
Because I believe alignment is nebulous. I don't think any character can be defined in one of those 9 squares. I will say
it's a good place to start, though.
It's a great place to start, for, like you said, for building your character, for knowing who they are. Like, I always give my characters an alignment when I create them, just so I can get an idea, who is this person. But they might change as they journey. And honestly, the paladin I played, he started lawful good. And let me tell you, lawful good doesn't have to be lawful stupid. Nope. And it certainly does not have to be lawful nice.
No.
Like, he was not always nice. And he could be very threatening to foes, because you're now threatening townspeople. And he's like, oh, I'll cut you open and pull your guts out through the hole, because you're threatening innocents. So now I don't care what I do to you to protect them. He's like, just so you know, this is what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Do you want to play that game?
Just so you know, I hold back so I don't scare the townsfolk also.
Yeah.
But if I have to, I will rip every molecule bit by bit off of you.
Yeah. I would recommend to anybody, if you want to see a lawful good paladin have just moment of just true strength and power and almost be terrifying, look up Justice League animated Superman's monologue, World Made of Cardboard.
Yes.
He goes off on Darkseid, and he just flat out says, I feel like I'm living in a world made of cardboard. I've always held back because I'm afraid of what I'll do. And he says to Darkseid, but you can take it, can't you? For the first time, I can find out what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a lawful good paladin. It's like, oh, I can hit you with the full extent of my power, and I won't instantly just kill you. That means I can kick your ass. Yeah, and I'm going to.
That monologue is so beautifully written.
It is.
It's so perfect.
And it's so perfectly Superman too. Like,
yeah,
he always holds himself back because he doesn't believe he has the right to be the arbiter of life or death on anyone.
I mean, until the Injustice storyline.
I mean, yeah, that's its own thing. But
The Injustice storyline is a great example of an Oathbreaker paladin.
it is. It is. There you go. Like honestly, read more Superman. There are a lot of great Superman stories out there. And
There
if you want to
are.
read all these different ways of which a paladin can be presented, I highly recommend.
It's Superman, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And my favorite hero of all time. I love Superman.
See, for me,
Oh,
John
I love
Stewart, Green
paladins.
Lantern. He's my favorite.
Oh, I mean, yes, but which one?
John Stewart.
John's legit. John doesn't get enough
Yeah.
love.
He doesn't because fucking Hal Jordan.
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
don't duke on Hal. Like,
Nah.
Ah.
I mean, he's not the biggest dick of the Green Lanterns.
no, that's Guy Gardner. No, I love me some Hal Jordan and Green Lantern Rebirth. Great story. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
love when they're all fighting Parallax and it's talking about how the rings of each one functions. And I love when it gets to John's, where it
Mhm.
talks about how his just, you can see how every little piece of it is moving because he has that architect's brain.
Mhm.
And I love that bit about him.
And that's the
it's
reason
actually-
why he's an artificer.
Yeah, it's actually one of the few times I liked Guy Gardner is explaining that his ring is just like this leaky faucet,
Mhm.
like just pouring out with energy. But yeah, no, John Stewart GL is
Yeah.
just MF and boss.
Hands down my favorite. Not a paladin, but love the man.
No, not a paladin at all,
Nope.
but absolute badass.
But yeah, super. So anyway, to get back from that tangent, Superman's a paladin. Paladins are dope.
Yeah, I feel like Paladin is like the number one class I talk to people who say they've never played, and if you've never rolled a Paladin, highly recommend it. Highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Also, if you're like me and very much disliked the past paladins, they have changed a lot. Give them
Oh,
a
man.
look.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's we're about at time. I know I've got food to make, so
Oh,
and
food is
packing to do.
yeah, you do.
So we should probably split soon, but yeah. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah,
Please come back and watch again. Talk to
Please
us in
do.
the chat. Bother us on Facebook. Tell us where we were wrong. Also, if there's a bit that you want to see again, don't worry, because it'll be on our YouTube Saturday
will.
at noon, because I won't forget to put it there.